What's up, everybody? Welcome back for another recap review show of Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, where tonight we're covering episode 3, titled Bygones, which is written by Michael M. Chang, directed by Crystle Roberson. Lucas and I are going to break it all down, hit the theories, hit all the major points, start the discussion, and you, our friends, make sure you join us in the chat or in the description if you are watching the playback. Lucas, my guy, how you feeling?
Look here. I was great for the whole week until people in comments start trying to give me new assignments that I didn't ask for in this season of Power.
It's good to see you was in the chat. That's the first thing we want to address.
For my first week in the chat, y'all are very interesting down there.
I'm glad you admitted it. First week. This crazy.
Oh my God. If this is my first time in comments, I would be super confused on what show I was watching. Because y'all theories be out there. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. But other than that, I am great. This is like, I'm not gonna say a bounce back episode. It has its moments, but this episode, it hits you with the feels with Uncle Marvin's in this episode.
Indeed. Yeah, so much to talk about. Like I said, you all drop in the chat or in the comments below your theories, predictions, all that good stuff. And yes, Lucas will not be hosting tonight. While I do welcome criticism, Lucas, we are simultaneously recording another show that we can't quite talk about yet, but soon. And while we're in parallel of doing this, he has a show, I have a show, and that's just what it is. And if you like his style better, then cool, watch that show. And if you don't like my style, then still watch this show too, because it's still a lot of hard work for the both of us. So, but yeah, we appreciate you all one way or another. And by all means, you all are fam. So like, yeah, the things we missed, the things that we didn't elaborate more on, just let us know in the comments. We're gonna be down there. We're gonna make sure we get it done. With that being said, you know us here at Big Bell Media, we are not without additional power content. So definitely check out these week's interviews. Got 2 available. I'm not gonna tell you what they are. Just go look. So I see a lot of participation on the recaps, which I love, but I'm like, y'all gotta watch the interviews too, because it's like a companion piece to what we talk about here, like understanding where some of our thoughts and theories come from, because it comes from the actors themselves, where they are also fans of this, and they also give their perspective of what they think these certain characters are feeling and why they went about the things they did. So, you know, you put that all together, I think it really helps in terms of navigating essentially what the arc of the whole season is about. So yeah, definitely check out 2 interviews available. Not going to tell you who, just look on the channel. You'll see them there. If you're subscribed, which by the way, might as well do that plug too. Like, subscribe, and yeah, that good stuff. Catch us when we go live each and every week.
Click your notifications on. Somebody else told me to do that on somebody else's show. And I was following. So yeah, your notifications on so you hear every time Big Gold Belt rings that bell. We may even try to get the song into the notification. Yeah, that'd be dope.
Yeah. All right, so let's start off the top of the episode here, where we see Richard and Sonny. They're just taking out the trash. It's after a long shift at the carryout, and next thing you know, the Grim Reaper Unique shows up, points the gun at them, is instructing them to take him inside. And first thing I want to say really quickly is that absolutely 100%, if you just go back one season, just in case you just quickly forgot, it gives you Ronnie vibes to the T. What I love about this is that they're brothers, and like, despite the events that happens, it's always cool to see similarities of siblings. And when you're able to pick up little things, that's just good intentional writing, and seeing like, yeah, they both may not be right in the head in one way, shape, or form, but they move the way they do. And it's interesting because Unique was very critical about how Ronnie was moving.
Yeah,
he ain't no different, not one bit. But yeah, he goes in there. He requests to know where the product's at. He sees the product. He wants them to fill the bags up. He hits the safe to take the money. He cracks this corny joke about Raq that's not even worth mentioning. It said something about sweet and sour or duck sauce and soy sauce and whatever. Didn't care.
Some racist and sexist at the same time.
Yes, some for sure. But then he kills them, both of them. And of all of this, I got to tell you, it was really cute to see them die leaning on each other's head here. Gave me a moment.
That was not the moment I thought you was going to go with there.
What did I miss there? Because that's all I got was like
where she gives the prototypical 90s, and I think this is why I'm a film person here. Before she dies, she gives the stereotypical 90s Asian lady, why don't you just leave us alone? Or why don't you just leave? Like that was in every movie.
Yeah,
the innocent Asian store, that's what they would say before they got killed. So that's what made this scene so good to me, because in my mind I'm thinking, wow, the translation to say, okay, we're gonna have a show in the 90s, they need to die the way we assume these type of characters to die in the 90s. That was just a dope scene altogether, that it set it up like that. Again, also with the similarities of Unique and Ronnie. Like, granted, we're gonna get later on in this episode exactly my thoughts on who this man is at this point, because clearly Ronnie was Michael Myers, so I don't know for sure who Unique is, because he's stacking up bodies like Ghostface. So I'm not exactly sure who he is here. But again, those parallels are something we're gonna have a lot of fun with later on in this episode, because this wasn't even the big moments of it.
Yeah, agreed. Next we get Juke and Marvin. Good vibes, man. And I think for everything we've been through with these two throughout the season, seeing them just on a good note with no tension at all, not a sprinkle of tension. They're just eating breakfast. Juke is obviously starving because she's back to eating real food. But Marvin is wanting to know, like, hey, when the military folks get here, what you want me to say to them? And Juke very confidently says, I got it. And Marvin is very comfortable, but yet confident in her, in that notion. But he also takes a moment to encourage her about getting her education, and the military folks show up. But really quickly before that, so this episode is definitely an episode of self-discovery for Juke. And we'll talk more about that later. But I want to know what you think about how did she receive, and we know what she does, but the point I want to make here is when he sort of said, like, hey, why don't you go get it's so funny how Black people say this. And there's not enough conversation about how incorrect this statement is. Why don't you get you one of those educations or something is not a proper direction. Sentence structure. It's damn near ignorant as hell, but it's so damn common that I think we just accepted it at some point.
We just go along with it. That's all. It's so wrong when you say all our grandmothers talk this way. No, they didn't. But to us, because in every movie we saw, that's the way they talk.
They definitely did.
Go down there, get you one of those degrees.
Yeah.
Like, okay. In what?
What did you think about how Marvin, and sort of advised her to go get education, and how did she receive it? But before you answer that, think about how Kanan sort of rebutted to Raq when she said, I thought you wanted to go to college and go get your education, go to college, get a degree, and how he was just like, yeah, that's not for me. You didn't do it, so why would I do it, essentially? And these are kids that are very much, Kanan's sort of making his path, but as I said, Juke is essentially trying to figure out her way. So how do you think she sort of received that, like, emotionally, regardless of the actions she's taking, but like, how did she receive that emotionally from Marvin?
As support, because she hasn't received it from him before that way. So, everything's been Juke pushing herself. Juke pushed herself through school. Yeah. She pushed herself through singing, but he came on later to be that supportive father. So for here, and you can kind of tell by a little smile / smirk she does at the dinner table as he's even talking about it, she's proud that her dad wants her to do something better. It's not even the weird part is it's not that Juke needs to push. That's something she would have done on her own anyway. But the point that you have someone now who absolutely cares about you, that this is what he wants you to do, and then later on in this scene, the secondary interaction where you see the difference of their relationship, like this is what Juke always wanted. She always wanted her father to be a dad, and it feels like she finally got that, and that's why she was receiving of going to school and get her one of those educations down in Big Wig.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to say my joke later. Oh man. I can't wait. So Grandma Joy, she's at home. Honestly, this scene is a scene that could be I feel like it's gonna be layers to this. It's a very quick scene, but there's a lot to really make of this because first of all, the portrayal of a dying grandmother, her nodding off on the couch and almost being startled when her grandson comes in, but has to like snap back into full composure. But like we see like the struggle is there. There's a couple of times I kind of picked up on that. But Kanan's there to bring her meds. And while he's trying to do the grandson thing and continue to work on that bond, he is in denial that she is dying. But grandma's a G. We've all had those in our had those in our family, so we understand that. Like again, the portrayal here and something that a lot of people are going to resonate to is that even in these moments, she's calling her shots, as she says, "I'm here now." That's what you need to focus about. Don't worry about what the doctor is saying and what inevitably is going to happen. I'm here now, and I'm on my own. I'm doing it on my own way. I'm doing it on my own terms. And Kanan giving her the affirmation saying, yeah. Oh, excuse me. She saying that I'm a bad motherfucking grandma, and Kanan giving her that affirmation like, yeah, you are. But still in the sense of really bonding, there were some important things being said. And it's honestly, it's important to kind of pick up on this. I think it's a little inaccurate in terms of what we know to be Kanan. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts about this. But Kanan understanding the generational trauma within the family of the lies and deceit, because yes, he gets it firsthand, but him taking that sort of pain and again, the trauma that he's experienced and saying, we need to break this now, especially while you're here. You need to see everybody. So he's basically camping for her to say, you need to talk to all your kids and let them know what's going on. And as she responds, it says, yeah, maybe it's time for me to be real with everybody, but especially myself. A lot of moving parts here, but as I said, very short, but I feel the important scene, which I think, which I will say here is that while Kanan does have very little time with his grandmother for the sake of storytelling on the series, we understand that this loss is going to possibly be the most monumental turn in his life, because we all know this personally, how this could be. And we all know that they have to be setting this up for it to be that. So what did you sort of make of this quick sort of moment between grandma and grandson and the things that were kind of said between the two?
Let me first focus on that last part, which is you're saying the payoff for this scene. For me, the payoff for the scene is the last scene of the episode, because that's when he gets the full picture of correlation of this whole conversation with his grandma. What I like the way it started out first is that when he dropped those meds off, it showed a real thing about grief. He heard a conversation completely different than what happened, but he heard it that way to protect himself. Because he heard the doctor say, you can fight this. And she's like, that's not what he said. And he goes to another thing. She said, I don't think you heard him right. And that's just his grief kicking in to protect him. I thought that was a beautiful part to put there. And then the conversation between him and his grandmother, even though we can acknowledge she's been his grandma on this show for all of 10 minutes. Because other than that, we didn't know they had a relationship. Like, their relationship has been as quick building as her cancer has been dangerous. Like both of them things ran parallel to each other. But here, again, for storytelling purposes, you know her a little quicker, but you still feel the emotional weight behind this scene about him as the kid telling the matriarch of the family, we need to break these curses. And I think specifically for a Black show, this is the kind of dialogue you need, because if don't no other race of folks hide things in the family from one another, it's Black people. You find out everything after everyone is gone. So it's even better at the end where Grandma says, as she sits back, not only be real with people, but be real with myself. Because that's a reflective look of time. And I think that's what makes that last scene so powerful. And I mean, from the moment you get from the kitchen with her and Marvin to the end of that scene, to me, that's all a huge payoff of this short conversation right here between her and Kanan.
Yeah, and real quick, just elaborate. Like I said, like you're right. It's a very important sentiment from Kanan. It's just inaccurate because a lot of kids in that era and damn near close to this era isn't aware of sort of the ongoing cycles that are happening in the family enough to to essentially stand up to say this has to stop now. A lot of the time we find out, looking back or when it's too late. So like him, even again, for television purposes, this short period of time of being with his grandma and growing a bond, but to still have the wherewithal to say like, you need to tell them this family has way too many lies going on now, and better now than never, or better now than at all. So I just think that, again, it's definitely I agree. It's definitely an alley-oop to the end of the episode, but definitely to something much more, I think, coming down the line. So I would keep an eye out on this scene, folks, as a fundamental building block for. Well, we are waiting for Juke to happen, but we are still waiting for a very sinister side of Kanan to appear as well too. And when people lose their grandmother, who are more than likely to be the anchor of their families, a lot of people it doesn't go well. And matter of fact, you talk about the end. Raq is also in this conversation too. We'll be talking about that in a little while, I promise. So, anyway, Juke in the military. I don't know too much about this conversation and whatnot. So what I will say is that the highlight points of this whole scene was that Juke knew her rights. She called their bluff. She admitted she was gay, and her father was proud of her for handling it the way they did. And she ultimately got her entry-level separation. And stood up for herself. Is there anything else here?
No, I think that's well, I just had questions for anybody, especially our military folks who answered us last week for a couple of things we were confused about. Does this conversation happen this way when you go AWOL? For some odd reason, I didn't think it would be ever this peaceful. One way said, out of courtesy, we're coming here instead of the MPs. How often do anybody in the military who goes AWOL get that? That's a huge courtesy. I'm gonna fly these lieutenant colonels, these 4-star generals down here to talk to Juke first before I send the basic people to get her. Like, insane. So I'm interested in that process. And for the person last week who answered us about the don't ask, don't tell policy, like, well, separation is easy. Those were the two things that popped into my head. Was separation is easy, and is that the typical interaction for someone going AWOL? Everything else I spoke to about already with her and Marvin, because that's the sweet part of it all. Because it's not only just an acceptance of the way his daughter handled it. We got to remember, just last season, he put his hands on her because that's who she was. So just the growth of him in this moment through all the trauma he's experienced, and then he gets to look back on his daughter and with pride that she can say that I'm something that at one point in time he didn't even want her to be.
Yep, that's true. Just to breeze through this next scene, Lou comes home. Rilla is just being a bum on the couch, and Rilla, they're just looking to work a deal so he can get some money in his pocket. But Lou ain't having that. Next is Juke again back in the house, throwing away all her military stuff, but also throwing away her butter jersey. So again, as an episode of self-discovery, I think we're just looking at chapters in Juke's life, and these are ones now in the past. The butter thing is done, the military stuff is done. What's next? Next, we get a drive-by of the carryout, and Marvin's rolling up, just looking and noticing it's a crime scene. Cop comes over and what's the word I'm looking for here?
Harass.
No, that's not the word I'm looking for. What's the word? I don't want to say foreshadow because that's not the word. When you are basically you knew what was coming here. Like, you went over there to talk to him, and by the next thing we know that the cop basically just outlined everything that happened there. So yeah. So we didn't get the full conversation, but essentially by the next scene you knew that, like, what?
You did foreshadowing, didn't you?
I don't think that's the word I wanted to use. It'll come to me in a minute.
Because we kind of knew at that point exactly what was going to happen.
What's the word called when it'll come to me? Anyway, but yeah, so while the cop, we didn't see the cop tell Marvin, but we know the cop told Marvin everything, which is honestly an interesting conversation, that a scene that I wish we would have had, because I'm kind of wondering what that interaction would have really been.
Yeah.
How did Marvin get the details of two people being killed at the carryout, as an active crime scene?
all he said was, "Oh man, I'm just here to pick up my favorite 37." And then, hey, what happened? And the cop was like, "Look, well, they got two people dead in here." No one asked him all of this information for that. So again, that's just the way this scene need to be done. But I need to know: do New York people order a carryout order by the number? Like, are they really going down the menu for that?
In the word I was thinking, implied conversation that we had. Yeah. So, but anyway, we get Marvin and Raq the next scene, and Marvin is telling Raq everything that happened. And Raq is obviously doing what she does best, planning to get everything back aligned, back protected. So moving everything to different places, add additional protection. But then Marvin says he thinks he knows who it was, and he alludes to their nephew because of what happened. Honestly, I gotta tell you, this is why you gotta have patience here, because there's a little part of me that was like, what was the whole point of him roughing up the nephew before? And we see it was a little small scene to set up for the speculation of the nephew being involved here, and then you say, well, what was the point of that? What's the point after that? Which we'll talk about in a little bit. But there's definitely some very, as a fan of Marvin, as a fan of London, I'm not liking all of this foreshadowing that is happening right now, because they are building things right under us.
They build up one. Oh my god!
Yeah. So while Raq is talking about everything, she asks him about being with Stefano, because Andre told her that they were seen by the Alphabet Boys leaving there, and Marvin denied it. That's what I thought last week was going to happen. Yeah. But the way it happened, I definitely got to say, I was not expecting Marvin to basically tuck his tail when he walked out, because that's the first time I think we've ever seen Marvin look entirely nervous. So Marvin denied it, said they were lying, and he said, like, they're just trying to fuck with us and make us look sideways. But he said he was going to go to talk to the nephew, and he walked out with this super, super duper nervous look. What did you make of this?
Absolutely crazy, because of the look at Marvin as he's walking out. Like, everything of the dread, the fear, the regret is on his face when he turns away from Raq. I thought that was the best part of this scene here. I mean, the point that he just blatantly lied to her, and I think I was on the opposite end. You kind of saw this, and I'm like, nah, she would have to know at this point. He's kind of working with Stefano. And for it to come across like this, that she has the slightest idea that they're working together, that's a lot of foreshadowing of something from Marvin that we didn't want to see.
Yeah. I don't know. I hope it's a nice swerve to keep us on edge, but we'll see. Anyway, so Crystle headed up to Kanan's. Well, at this rate, it's Kanan and Crystle's spot, but whatever. And bumps into Unique. And ladies and gentlemen, we have the second example of how Unique is very much turning into Ronnie, because even the same shot of him being in the street, and when Ronnie bumped into Kanan, now we see Unique bumping into Crystle. Not sure if there's anything you want to elaborate here, but yeah, we see the streets are watching. and you know what, Unique is not moving quietly at all.
That's what I said. Ghostface from Scream.
Yeah,
it's nothing quiet about these killings here.
Yeah,
and he does not care in the slightest bit how he gets with it.
Yeah. So now we get Raq. She went to talk to Erwin. Talk about adding security, and he just wasn't feeling anything Raq was saying, because this is hit too close because they're family and whatnot. But you know, Patina, I thought this was a very high level acting scene for her. Speaking with a lot of righteousness, so you believe what she's saying, because she's like, "Are you married?" She said, "Yeah, well, we married too." And I mean, this was just good writing and good delivery by her. But you know, we usually get these sort of analogies with 50 through the narration. This is that. This is this, if it ain't clearer than what she said, I can't help you. But she made it very clear. You know too much, and for your own life and safety, just keep me happy in this marriage, and we'll be okay. Happy wife, you keep your life. Is what she told. What did you make of this?
Again, this is why you got to be very careful who you get in business with. Everything is very peachy in the beginning. Next thing you know, you got this chick saying, "Hey, we together forever, forever, ever, forever, ever." Like, you're not going anywhere. But again, you understand partially what Raq is saying, because technically we don't know what happened yet. You're assuming it's my business. What happened if it's not the business that's doing it? And then the other thing is, what made you think we could just quit because you want to? Like, when has life ever been that simple? When you say that, you can say all you want to. I just don't want to do this no more. That's great, but the other party has to agree to it. Yeah. Raq is very much like, "Oh no, we're not getting divorced. You've lost your mind. You gonna sit back in that room, keep on looking pretty, and give me my stuff, and that's how we gonna go forward with this." And again, it's just a great scene for Patina. Amazing scene for her to pull off here.
Crystle and Kanan. So now that Crystle's back up in the apartment room, Kanan count money. She wants a new apartment because, one, she described seeing somebody very scary outside, which in this case she was describing Unique, and said something that seems wrong about him. So her intuition is definitely right. And then she outlines like how you're running shop is definitely very messy, because you got the delivery boys in and out, and you're just out here, you know, laying your head where you work at. What's the, because you know you missed the quote. What does the great philosopher Young Jeezy say about where you basically do your business at, and where you never let a nigga know where you lay your head at, something like that. But anyway, it's entirely correct to the point that he has absolutely have an open door policy, no security, that people just coming in and out of this place. So he's vulnerable. And as we see very later on in the episode, Crystle was right. One thing I don't think I know, and maybe you all know, so just let me know in the comments. I know y'all either going to know or y'all going to hit the Google. But Kanan did say, "Where did you sort of get this sort of perspective from? Did you get it from your dad?" And she's like, "Nah, this is just me, and it's just my feeling." Which, you know, in a way you could say like this is good for him to have her around, because she's seeing things he isn't. Or is she somebody that know a little bit of the game because of her dad? Like, what could this mean? I don't know. It's something, but nonetheless, She says, I'm not going back, because Kanan definitely tried to say it. If you're scared, go to church. And she said no, because going back to her mother's house would put her back under the roof of an abusive boyfriend of hers. And she just wants to get a new apartment. So was there anything you made of what Crystle said or interaction here? What is your thoughts about the situation? As I Google Jeezy's lyrics real quick.
I'm about to say, because you were going to an angle and I couldn't help you out there. I don't know that much about Young Jeezy's lyrics. But the first thing I thought is, wow, this is what happens when you get a girl and you all good in your little studio apartment, and she come and say, nah, baby, you can afford more than that. That was what this felt like with Crystle. It's a play for her. Granted, it may seem like she's looking out for Kanan. This is a clear play for her to get what she wants. And that is not to have to go back to her mom's abusive boyfriend or have these weird people coming in the house all times of night. So she talks Kanan into getting her own place, because that's what we got it for. He definitely didn't get it for him. So I think that part of this correlation of this scene is what's the funniest thing in the world. Because this conversation has been had by many of dope boys and their girlfriends. And it's just interesting the way everything here moved for Kanan, as he's just trying to make her happy at all costs, no matter how right she is here.
Yeah. All right. So I got the lyrics.
I'm about to say,
now. Yeah, of course. Never have I ever served a nigga where I sleep at, is what he said. And it's just the truth, But anyway, moving on. We'll see. Well, we'll talk about the apartment stuff in a minute.
Is it 17 point? That was Mr. 17.5 that said that?
Yes, it was.
Not a bad. I need to find that song.
That's Who Dat of the Recession. Definitely was blasting that in my good old college days. Yeah. Anyway, Lou goes to see Lowell, excuse me. And they're just trying to negotiate a better deal for B Rilla. I honestly don't even want to talk about this scene much. I'm going to give it to you. But what did you make of this unhinged sort of conversation? Sort of response from B Rilla, as Lowell basically outlines everything that he's done, everything he's came from, his history from his family, the misconception of Jews.
There you go. Come on now. At what point in a television show, if I told you you're going to get a scene where someone who is Jewish feels offended by someone using language, and then that Jewish person goes through their heartbreaking story of how their parents got to where they were and what they have to go through. That's what this scene felt like. But I can't even say it is set up to only feel that way, because then we get the same thing with B-Roll and black people. Same exact thing. Yeah. Y'all been raping us, y'all been stealing. You know how many people was probably cheering like that? That's all record companies do that. And like, but then you get in the middle of this, between the speech about just disrespecting Jewish people to the speech from Jewish people control the black community and black people. It's that correlation of hearing it from both sides and having Lou be the mediator in the middle. Like, all of this is pointless. None of this is going to lead to a solution of what we're looking for here. Like, and I think just to have Lou now be the voice of reason versus who he was when he used to sit at those diner tables across from Unique, ready to shoot and kill, is it's an amazing picture forward here for Lou, as now he gets to see this argument that he saw countless times between Raq and Marvin in a drug game. Now he can see it in a legal way, and you can see he's responding to it completely differently because of that.
Let me tell you how intentional this scene was, because for the sake of power, it's nothing. But to the point you said, right? Mm-hmm. But you have to say, why would this scene be in there? Well, in case y'all don't know, the showrunner, Sasha Penn, is Jewish. And this is, I believe 1,000% this is a reflection of his story and his father and where he got and how he got to where he's at. And in case Sasha's just somebody you just are acclimated with through Power, check out all his other content because he's had multiple podcasts. Him and Ben Shapiro has done work together, who's also Jewish. So like the idea that like he's been very, very vocal, but yet an advocate for his heritage and his story. And I think that's exactly what this character represents, is what Sasha did and has done to be where he's at right now, to say like, yeah, I know what y'all want to say, and I know what y'all want to think about me being Jewish and this and this and that, but no, here's what my father did, and here's how I got to what I did. So I think this is a love letter to himself and his family, and it's beautiful. So it's Power. Things are always intentional. That's why, like, even although we have to get here and do recaps, and we can be critical sometimes, but as I said in the very first recap, we always got to be patient, because in Sasha we trust, and certainly Stars believe that, because they definitely gave him the keys to the Lux to drive. That's
clearly we gotta have faith, because
that's a Jaheim lyric, by the way.
I know. I was just gonna breeze right through that. Because the only one that anybody want to hear is about him putting the woman first. And then they look at him now and be like, see what happens when you put that woman first? Nothing positive.
So yeah, I definitely a beautiful moment to really understand like how intentional I was. But on the other hand, Be Real is a hothead, and
oh my god, why does Be Real exist?
Yeah,
like how many broke rappers can go to their label and say, my bad, I blew through the first advance, but I'm living on this nigga couch, so I need another advance. Like, I don't know how that works at all. That is insane.
What do you think that Lil's sort of and this is later on, but we'll just talk about it now. But what do you think his look at Lou meant when he asked Be Realer, did any of that mean anything to you? And he said, nah. Then he kind of, he gave sentiments about sometimes you just got to have somebody that listen, which, man, I got to tell you, when you think about what I just said, that's kind of layered too, because it's like, there's going to be folks that watch this show and not understand one bit what's being said here, but you just listen. Maybe that's all that matters, that you just listen. Maybe you don't understand, but maybe it's just important that you just listen. But what do you think in terms of the show? What do you think that look that he gave to Lou? Now, before you answer real quick, what you just said a minute ago, maybe just realize that, you know what? Some niggas do need 360 deals, and Be Real is one. Give him the Death Row special, the Super Saiyan Death Row contract, like, because this guy,
this nigga here will cost you everything and everything. Oh my god, he's so pointless. Not pointless, but he up there. I mean, he better come with a hot song soon or something. His favorite got one hot song, and he living off of a song that he got his Jello anthem out this hot song that everybody's paying attention to. But here, you know what I realized when I saw the look back at Lou? This whole conversation was for Lou. It had nothing to do with Be Realer. He framed it in a way that this guy who's coming up and asking me for money for this new artist, I need you to understand everything I've been through, everything my family's been through to get to where I am now. And I need you to understand how much this means to me. Because the moment after he told that story, and he looked at Be Real and said, did any of that resonate with you? And Be Real, nah. And he said, you know what? Sometimes you just got to get it out. I think at that point, he's talking to Lou.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you got to get it all out. Anything that's holding you back or that you feel someone could be offended about, let them know who you are and what you come from. Because we already see it's going to be a time where Be Realer is going to have to understand who Lou was at one point in time.
Yep. All right, so next thing we get Raq calling Andre. Oh, which, by the way, when he talked about he had to pay the money to get Be Realer out of jail, that money he paid to Andre. So that's interesting when you kind of think about it. Even though Andre told Raq that he had to he had to get somebody out of jail for Lou and was going to charge it to Raq.
No, but remember, Raq said, "Nah, they ain't got nothing to do with me. Charge it to the label. That's Lou
okay.
thing."
You're right. Yep.
She said, "That's Lou thing."
You're right.
You gonna charge it to the label?
You're right. Good call there. But anyways, yeah, she calls Andre, who obviously didn't pick up, but want to know from his NYPD connect, because my man had it all. You know, trying to get a sense of what's happening, or have they heard anything about what happened about the hit. But anyway, she looks in the mail, looks in the mail and sees the mail piece from Kanan school, showing that he has not been to school since the new year. I already talked about this. This was the scene with Lou and Lowell, excuse me, damn. Everything we just talked about a second ago. Now, here's where I've been waiting for all night. We see Juke flipping through a catalog as she is getting ready to enroll in Everest Community College, and we already know. you already know.
You thought Everest, and I said, "Damn, they got my girl going to Phoenix University."
And you already know that administrator or whatever that lady role is, she'll give a fuck what class she takes, because they stealing money from them regardless, and she's gonna be on the commercial by the end of the night. So just know,
this is legit. You going to the 13th grade, like you still in high school. You go to the 13th grade. Like this is a scene here but it also can resonate a little bit for anybody who just gone to college and tried to pick courses, and you not understand what you want to do for a living. But I did like the woman, like, "Hey, but you can flip through it 45 more times. Ain't nothing in there will change." This is why they tell you, haven't picked out what you want to do before you walk through a college door, because you was completely lost.
Yeah, man, she needs to stop playing. Yeah, she about to getting that education from Everest. But anyway, she see her homie that they used to and I instantly knew who this dude was. It wasn't even a question. That once I seen it, I was like, oh, that's one of the dudes they used to what do they call that? Is it officially called like ransacking?
Boosting,
yeah, boosting. I didn't even realize.
Boy, did you just give the most gentrified term for.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't think I recall boosting being a clothing term. I know people used to boost cars because, you know, my man Dominic Toretto, that's all they used to do.
But boosting in general always meant anything you steal.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
anything is considered boosting. Yeah, Dom and them took it to mean cars. And
but he invites her out and say, "Hey, the crew, we hanging out tonight. Come through." Marvin now, he goes to make that visit to the nephew house, and he presses him, but the nephew is asking about the daughter. And when it really starts to set, Marvin is like, "Oh, you know what? She lost both her parents. She's going to be an orphan now." And then he realized that she didn't do this, and we see a little bit change of demeanor here with Marvin. And says he's sorry a couple of times, and says, like, if you hear anything, let me know. I'm gonna make them pay. And then he says, check on the little girl. She's going to need you. She lost everything. And we see in another like scene ending moment of Marvin really looking bothered by this. What did you make of this whole visit to the nephew?
It was just a correlation of what exactly Marvin went through. When he said this little girl has lost everything, she's going to need someone. You know, immediately he thought about Gerald's last daughter. Because she lost everything. She's going to need someone. And that's Marvin. And Marvin felt that in this moment for this little girl, for both her parents being gone, and now her needing another family member to step up. So I think that was just a correlation, was to understand that this is part of the change that Marvin has gone through. Like, close. He can personalize stories now. And this was way too personal hit. Way too close for home for him.
Yep. So Raq goes to see Kanan because she's going to approach him about the mail piece. Crystle's there. Crystle sizes up Raq, says, "I'll see you. I'm sure we're going to see each other again later." What did you make of this sort of chess game that was happening with the two of them.
This is so funny. I'm just sitting here because I don't know. Everybody else just assumed that Raq was gonna say, "Move your little ass out the way," or do something of Raq nature, but instead we get her completely showing respect to Crystle for the way Crystle is helping take care of her son. That's it here. When she walked around and said, "Man, I see clearly you live here because it's clean." She's made all of this stuff is a woman's touch because it was never like this before you got here. That's respect.
Yeah.
And no matter what's going on, that's Raq respecting her. And from there, you just get a scene where it's just a mother understanding that her child is not only grown up, but now has an important person in their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Along with her talking shit to her and looking like, because Raq, at the beginning, at that door, you thought Raq was about to smack the hell out of her or something.
Yeah.
That little lean on the door frame, that's every black mother before she whoops my ass. That's the lean they do.
Just by the way, just to really put this into perspective, Raq has PTSD coming up into that hallway because every single time he come up there, Kanan on something. If it wasn't the old chick from before, now this chick. And by the way, this is famous apartment. We have to remember that, like, crazy work out here.
Everybody keeps on forgetting that. Like, to the point we've been saying this whole episode. Yeah, because when she got back to Kanan's place, like, this is famous as apartment. And put him out.
Yep. Next we got Kanan and Juke catching up at a little carry out spot. And it's just a scene that we used to see them do back in the arcade with Famous back in the day. But you know, they're just catching up, and Juke lets Kanan know she likes girls, and Kanan's absolutely proud of her in terms of being her, hyping her up. But then when they get down to the meat of this conversation, it's really about where's Famous and what's the street saying about what's happened with him. And Kanan doesn't know what to believe, but you know, word on the street is that they heard he might have been talking, and maybe he got a little nervous and he bounced. But you know, they figured, like, you know, if he started talking to the cops and realized that, you know, this is getting too hot, you know, it's probably best he leave. But Juke was very adamant that Kanan, that Juke, Famous would never drop your name at all. He will remain loyal, which is true. I would agree. But other than that, he kind of asked Juke what was up next, and she said, "Yeah, I'm about to sign up for classes at Everest." So you know, he's like, "Cool. When we going to film that commercial?" Because if y'all know what I'm talking about with the Everest commercials, I promise you.
I know. The only one who was is going to Dubai.
I promise you, it's good content if you want to look it up. Anyway, Marvin went to see Early. Now, this was not a scene that I was expecting. So what's interesting here is how connected Early is. That the fact that Marvin went to go see him because he figured Early might know what's going on. But Early working in the mechanic shop, he wanted to know, did he hear anything about hitting up about the hit at the Chinese spot? He gives him money and says, "Yeah, when you hear something, let me know." But before that conversation was over, he says, "Hey, is your aunt still, you know, fucking with the child services joint?" And he was like, "Yeah." He said, "I'm trying to track down a girl in the system that got grabbed up." Now, what did you make of anything in any of these scenes? And did you know exactly who he was referring to when he talked about the little girl? Because it is two options here.
I thought it was Soo Young. I did not think at all it was who it ended up being. And it's just because Soo
Young is accurate too, but go ahead. go ahead.
It's because shit just got picking up. So you would assume he's talking about Soo Young and no one else here. So it's just that's the only thing I picked up on the scene, is that's who I swore he was talking about.
Yeah.
And the interesting part that he even knows him. that he can do business with him. So it makes you wonder just what is him and Unique's relationship and how many people know about that.
Yeah. Early seems like a very transactional person. If it's about the dollar, then he's all in it. And I think that's where, his loyalty remains, is to the dollar, which in a way, no different than Pops Snaps and Snap. Pops and Snap. Same thing.
I would say that only difference is, and that's what makes it interesting, is that Unique called him when he got shot.
Yeah.
That's not a call you make this anybody.
Yeah, true that.
That's somebody you're really close with.
Yeah,
that you would even think about making that call to that person.
Yeah. So next we get Lou at the AA class, and he's celebrating the milestone of his sobriety. And they now have asked him to share it. He's been coined, and he gets up there. He speaks about himself in third person about his time when he was at the what is the place he was at? The rehab center. There we go. Yeah. And Raq is there to support him. Now we get Juke showing up to the bar spot. The crew is down there. They're ready to work. They're talking about the supply and demand. But she really wasn't feeling this, and she looked for a way out. She hit him with the guy, hit the bathroom, and she hit the skirt and was out of there. So again, this is just another chapter of her life that she is putting behind her now. So we know that the boosting days is gone, the butter days is gone, the military days are gone. So at this rate now, for what we know of Juke, the world is open. We know where she lands. We know she ends up being a cop. But this gap right now, we just don't know. Is singing completely done? The other things you could kind of say that's quickly behind her too is like there was a small measure of possibly being involved in the church just for the sake of her relationship with her mother, and that's gone too.
Yeah.
So, and I think the trauma with that and with butter, maybe the singing is all the way down, which is criminal because being able to have Haley on your show and not being able to sing, which we know how talented she is kind of like dag. So I don't know.
Hey, they got Petito in here not singing for Raq, so they're like, you know what, we can do it.
Right. That's a guy. I forgot about that, and she just came off of her Broadway. Well, not just came off. I think it might have been last year. A Broadway of Into the Woods, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, now what? So after that, we get a moment with Lou and Raq, and she is just very appreciative and a lot of gratitude to Lou and everything he's done. And Lou is like, listen, I owe you, but she also, responds back and say, nah, all you owe me is to take care of yourself. Yep. And then they make a little joke about, well, not only just the joke, but there's an acknowledgement now that we know that their mother is trying to put together a dinner, and they're making jokes about how the food is going to poison them and whatnot. So yeah, we know that scene is coming. I can't wait till we get there. But anyway, Juke left. She's rolling down the street, and she spotted a club. And as you can see by the line, this is definitely a queer club. And a woman approaches her by the name of Mara and was just basically like, yeah, I remember being in your shoes, standing outside, not sure to go in, coming by each and every night. And she invites her inside, and yeah, to the full extent, is absolutely a club in DuPont Circle. And Juke looks happy because she is home. So as again, self-discovery, and as she has fully come out, and I don't think that there was any doubt that us as the viewers knew that she was gay. Yeah. But has she ever made full acknowledgement to the point that that's her identity in every capacity? She's not hiding it no matter what she do. So her family knows, her friends going to know, her activities, her hobbies is all going to be based around this. So her having that moment going into the club and smiling and seeing others like her, I think was definitely a big step forward. And just to really just put this whole scene, go through all the scene, is that she meets friends and they express their story. So it looks like she's going to have some new positives in her life and folks that see her for who she is and she see them for who they are. And I think that's the win that we want for her to have for everything that's happening in Power Book 3.5 Raising Juke. So next scene here, we get Lou and Birilla.
Hold up. First, we can't skip by that. On her first night at the club, Juke clearly ran into one of them. They can say, "Hey, nah, she with me." Like that's a different type of riz, Joe. Juke ain't even gotta try no more to get the baddest done to take her into the spot. Like that whole interaction was dope. That you just happened to be outside the club, and my girl hit her with the Alicia Keys line, talking about how much she like me, put a little extra milk in the hot chocolate. Like, it for free. Didn't have to pay a cover. We saw how long the line is.
Yeah.
I didn't know, like outside of like Nelly's at times, I didn't even know lines like this existed to get that is an insane line, Joe. So, but again, we got to pay attention to nobody complained that she just walked Juke. And my whole mind was just there, like, no, she got to be one of them.
Yeah, or like, we keep an eye out for who she is because.
Yeah. And you got to wonder how we always say nothing is a coincidence in Power. Yeah. That feels like way too strong of an introduction to a character that's not going to have some implications behind it.
Yeah. So Lou and Birilla. So what the 411 comes on, which happens to be Famous's hit that somebody in the comments said last week is the hit that got him on the map and not The Streets Need a Body. And while that is true to the show, none of us are going to admit that because we do know which one is the hotter song, but that's no here nor there. But it comes on and Lou cuts it off. And then Birilla asks, is he gone? He says, nah, he's just taking a break. And I wrote in my notes, it is crazy how much storyline Famous is getting to not be on the show right now. This is the most he's had in 4 seasons.
Never seen Famous be the lead in 3 different stories on Power. with the wax on.
Yeah.
Especially now that I know its name, what's the 411? I automatically think about Mary J. Blige when I think of what's the 411. Not Famous.
Yeah, it's garbage. So the next was the in the club scene, but we need to talk about that. So Early gets a visit from Unique. Unique gives him the money, and Early wants to know where that money come from. But Unique says, "What does it matter? It's yours now." But Early quickly puts it together that he was the one that hit Rock's spot and put 2 people down. But he does take the money and basically tells Unique, "You're playing with fire." But Unique rebuttals back with "I'm playing with fire. I am fire. I'm gonna burn everything down." And Early had this look of like he looked at him like this nigga, but I think it's interesting that now that he got his money, he's not so much in fear. I don't think he's in fear about his unhingedness or anything. I think he's just like, oh well, it is what it is, I guess, right?
That's what makes this relationship between them so interesting. There was no fear. All he really cared about was his money.
Yeah.
Once he got his money, and then he gives Unique the warning. You're playing with fire, and then he turns into Bane. Darkness. It was a point, and you look at his face, and he just like, okay, I at least warned you before I snitch. Because it damn sure he came and look like before I let them know it's you. I did warn you about you playing with fire here.
Yeah.
So again, their relationship is very interesting, but now we got to pay attention. We may get the next great character of Power if we find out that he's connected in ways we never thought about, or he's respected by all sides in a different way.
So you think he's gonna go back into a Marvin now?
Not Marvin per se, but the information is going to get to somebody enough to let them know, hey, this is the person who robbed you. Because I don't think he would go directly to Marvin, but he'll afford the way to get to Marvin.
Okay. All right, so Marvin is at a school now, and we see Marvin being called Uncle Marvin. And it is no other than Amber, who is G's daughter. It is a touching moment because Amber says she misses her sister and her dad. Marvin, in all ways, shapes, and forms, remains positive here because maybe he is Uncle Marvin for real. Maybe he is trying to make this right. He obviously cared a lot about this family, and he was really hurt by what happened with G. But he tries to do right by the daughter, Amber, the remaining daughter who's in the foster care system. So this is who he went to go look for, and gives her his address and a lot money. We assume it's money. And while the teacher says, is she okay? There's no issue here. It's just a measure of just delivering something to the daughter.
I thought you were somewhere completely different with that one.
Yeah, no, I'm just mean like, they didn't push him on like who's he and make it a big deal. It's just kind of like, okay, and let that go.
Like she was supposed to do. Like shout out to the teacher who's probably responsible for Amber Alerts, because you just told man, give this little girl an address in her pocket, a pocket full of money, and you just said, "Hey, are you okay?"
Yeah.
And he says, "I'm her godfather." Even I would be a little racist and be like, "Nah, nigga, nah, I need proof."
Yeah, this is a little foreshadowing again,
Exactly, completely. But that's what stuck in my head. Like, wow, that teacher got a lot of faith that this black man just knows this little white girl.
Yeah,
and they're hugging, and he's giving her money in an envelope, and no one would question that.
I mean, although everybody didn't see the money, but nonetheless, it's a thing that can happen there. But
he was black, and he's talking to a little white girl.
That's definitely a thing.
Not in the 90s. That was definitely he's definitely being watched by everybody. Everybody's watching.
Yeah, we're gonna see what is to make of that relationship, and I'm gonna stay positive about it, but we'll see. Anyway, we get I'm gonna get through a lot of these other little scenes here. Raq and her security at one of their spots. Spikes rolls up because it's Quan. He's pissed. They're having a debate about the optics of how to move and looking weak and all this other stuff. But Quan says, like, listen, the example needs to be made, and if you don't, I will. And says you're replaceable, Raq, but she's not bothered by that. Kanan and Crystle are looking at apartments. Marvin and Raq, where Raq is asking about, have you heard anything? No one's talking. She says we need to turn up the heat because Quan is a problem, making it uncomfortable for everybody. We need to see Joaquin, and they're gonna go. They need to go see Joaquin to look for options here. Anyway, they go to the going back. Crystle and Kanan looking for apartments. I mean, to no surprise, 2 black kids. Yeah, racism. That's it.
Yep.
I'm gonna talk about it in a second, but racism. We'll just leave it right there. To go see Joaquin, which for a moment I started thinking, like, do they have a path to go to Joaquin, considering what happened with what's her name, and how, because Joaquin's sister was the girl from the yeah, okay. And I was like, it's everything. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I was thinking, like, was there any issues or tension between them? But it was really on Ronnie and his stuff and his BS. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So okay. But anyway, Joaquin says, like, yeah, you need to go to Tremont to get your new heroin. He'll be your new heroin connect, which we know, and he's in Baltimore. So the Baltimore thing could come back into place here. Marvin is Marvin distracted here? Because Marvin, first of all, he makes the joke about when they said, like, Tremont really loves the city, and he was like, yeah, he likes those fish legs, but he said, no, they're fish eggs. Like, what are you talking about? And then also he said that little joke about, oh, he had me a good price. So, like, he's in a very normal comedic Marvin mood, and maybe that is normal, and there's no, like, nothing to concern. But when you talk about intentional moments, Raq, like, nah, there's no such thing as fish legs, as fish eggs. It was kind of like a scene where it's like, what am I making of this? Because, like, it definitely was a thing outside of, like, the legitimate business that's happening right now with them trying to find a new connect. So is this like a stick a pin in it for right now type of thing, or what?
I think so, because we just gotta watch it build out a little more to see exactly where they're gonna go with this. I had some thoughts about it, and I'm like, it's not factoring in all the way for it to compute exactly Raq's full thought about this whole situation yet. And that's what, again, this is an episode full of foreshadowing. Like everything is foreshadowed for you to see, be like, okay, let me do this call back to this scene in this episode, call back to this scene in this episode. It goes along with the way we said this season just feels more cinematic than the ones in the past. Like it's made me closer to prestige television here. And that's what this setup feels like. Because everything's about keeping storylines going and keep you interested throughout. And it's Raq and Marvin and his little distractions for Marvin and how that's going to affect everything he does moving forward. That's a great storyline between two great actors.
Do you think with the reference of Baltimore, do we see them go to Baltimore? There's no chance that they randomly meet Symphony when they go to Baltimore.
Come on now.
But I do think there's going to be a reintroduction of him some way, somehow.
Yeah. And I think that's the way to do it. Because if that's the way eventually Raq has to go to Baltimore for business, you know who she's going to run into.
Yeah.
At that point. Just to help bring some closure to certain things that felt like they were closed out too early.
Yeah. Really quickly to the next scene. So there's still apartment hunting. And now all of a sudden, Kanan seems very he seems very into the idea of getting a new apartment. And they work the deal. They give the guy cash so they can skip the credit check and all that other stuff. But what do you think about his change of heart all of a sudden?
Oh, it was the hurtness from the rejection because he was black and young.
Okay. Because
he felt like, you're telling me my money's not good. And that hurt Kanan more than anything else. I mean, Crystle kind of says that they're walking through the next apartment. She said, you changed your mind really fast. Was it because we couldn't get the place that we wanted? And that's the issue here. He ran into someone who you couldn't buy your respect into their circle. Yeah. Then what? What's the next step in the process?
Yeah.
Buy everything else to show you that I can and will afford anything I want. That's what it felt like. That was a setup for Kanan here.
Okay. Yeah, well, a little part of me said like, this is definitely him and his ego being hurt. So now he's just all into it. Cause this show changed your heart of him talking about, now I can see what you mean. Like, nobody's buying that. So
like taking a new girl out after your girl break your heart and you like buy her Chanel purse.
Yeah.
And you be like, see, bitch, you only had a Michael Kors. She get like how much more she means to me, type of thing. It's an ego thing. Men have it, and they showed it here on Kanan.
Yep. Unique outside of his baby mom house, looking at the son being put to bed, looking at the baby mom doing it. He puts money in the envelope and leaves it in the mailbox for them. That's definitely going to turn the sign that he's still alive because she'll know. She know how he moves. So that's his way of getting their attention. We get to the grandma spot, and listen, folks. So when y'all see like television shows or movies and it says viewer discretion is advised, this is where they need to drop that in here, because y'all know damn well if there's one thing about power that don't mix, and I mean like on the lines of like ice and water, ice and oil or grease, the idea that you just know shit's about to go down.
Yep,
is the damn power. The power itself in the dinner table scene.
Yes, it don't matter
it don't even matter
it is or what family sits at the dinner table. It never ends up well.
You just know, and the fact that grandma's pulling out that fine china. Now she on her Sunday's best, and this is a Tuesday. Okay. So you already
already know you died. Like, you ain't even gotta say it. I'm crying the moment you bring out the dishes.
This is the first time she's ever used this set ever. So you already know.
Instant tears, Joe. Instant tears. I already know that means you dead. Because black people don't do that. The only thing worse she could have did here is if she had plastic on the furniture and she started
ripped it off.
I know.
Hey, dude, the one you unzip it, you already know it's a wrap from that. All that moisture coming out of it finally. Really to make up this scene, they are at the grandma house. She's pulling out the china. That's a fact. But Marvin, everybody's having their interactions with her, and we've seen the dynamics between Juke, between Marvin, between Lou. And then she's like, listen, we're not getting started till everybody's here. We see Raq outside smoking. Kanan rolls up. This is a conversation with Raq and Kanan about school and whatnot. And Raq brings up about him not going to school. He says, because he's done. Then she said, I thought you were going to school, go to college, all that. She said, nah, you didn't do it. I'm not doing it. Da, 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 da. You think after all of that you did to me and made me do, did you think I'm just going to go back to school and just be normal? Before we go to the next scene, I just want to quickly say everything he said is exactly what Tariq did.
Yep.
To the T. All the things you made me do, all the things that I did, everything that I seen, and I just went to school like just a normal dude. Yep. So, and she said, sometimes I think you're crazy. Said, I think you're crazy too. But anyway, one scene before the final scene, we see OC going back into Famous's apartment, and Unique runs up on him, and that's that for right now. We don't know, but we do know lack of security, and Crystle was 100% right.
That's all you gotta say. The killer's in the house. That's it. That's
killer's in the house. Last scene again, because it's a power family dinner scene. What possibly could go wrong, folks? Joyce is there, and I'll let you take this last scene because this is it's definitely interesting. It's a lot of feeling going on here. Everybody trying to figure out a way to talk to each other. So from you, just kind of talk us through this scene and your thoughts about it.
As we get to the end, when we get to the grandmother's interaction with everyone one-on-one, trying to be encouraging, starting from Lou, getting to Juke. She already knew everything she needed to know about Kanan. Having a short interaction with Marvin, but Marvin wants her to get to the point. The biggest part of this scene is her interaction with Raq and that effect it had on Kanan. Because that's the callback again to the scene earlier in this episode when the grandmother tells him, it doesn't matter what y'all been through. She's still your mother. Show her some respect. And now he gets to see the way his mom is with her mother. And you see a look come over Kanan's face is, that can't be me. Am I that way with her? And is it her fault that everything is what it is between us here? Like that was a powerful correlation as you get Patina put on that performance and you get that look. Yeah. And he's watching not only his mother go off, it felt like I'm watching me react. And then it's automatically like he's feel guilty when he's thinking it. Like that's this again, it's a power family table scene, but it's more happening here with Kanan's face without him not opening his mouth than we've almost gotten out of any table scene. Because a lot of this is nonverbal, and that's what makes it great.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think really when you have actors who are able to tell stories through emotes, not something that I've ever tagged Makai with in his time on Kanan, but this is important. It's definitely important to see how he's receiving what's happening and how he's sort of expressing how he's feeling through it. And a lot of it could be a lot of different things, and it's obviously going to be addressed next episode in terms of like, does he regret that he brought this dinner together? Does he feel a bit of remorse now, or even empathy for how he has been treating his mother and he's seeing that reflected into that? Or does he blame his mother fully even more for all of this, and he's just disappointed that she's acting the way she's acting? Or is just the nature of what's the truth here now and how everybody's receiving it, is it finally setting with him that this is the reality because he was in denial earlier? So there's really a lot to make of this, but I think it will be definitely ironed out next episode. And I just think across the board, we just had a really, really good, strong episode 3, building up so many different things. And I think as much as this is, you know, pushing the season down the line for Kanan, I think in terms of the power universe, there's really a lot to really make of the different things that kind of happen here. So the expansion through origins, I think we might be looking back at this episode for some connections at some point. That's sort of my hot take here. So, but that's episode 3, folks. Bygones. Once again, as y'all know, and as y'all always do, thumbs up if you like this video and this recap tonight. Make sure you like that for us. But definitely, more importantly, in the comments below, let us know your thoughts, your predictions, your theories, even commentary to anything that we said. Let us know in the comments below. Lucas is assigned to be down there to respond to you all as old man.
I ain't moderating this show, so I will respond in the comments.
Better.
No.
Yeah. Old man doesn't know how to work the Twitter, or excuse me, doesn't know how to work the YouTube. Probably not the Twitter either. But
I'm learning my best.
But yeah, we truly do appreciate you all, and we'll see y'all back next week for another recap or review show. Get on the channel now. Look at the interviews that are available. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We see y'all back very soon. Thank you for watching, folks.